What is up, everybody? Welcome here to Pop Culture Philosophers. I'm your host for tonight's show, Rockin' Robbie Bills, and welcome to PCP Movie Night. And in fact, welcome to the grand finale of Crew's Choice 2025. And we've got Verno's pick tonight, his very first pick for Crew's Choice, and he picked the Stephen King adaptation, Stand By Me. 1986 film based on his 1982 novella, The Body, directed by Rob Reiner, with a stellar cast, many of them kind of unknown at the time or just starting to get known. But I'm really excited to talk about this movie. It was one of my favorite flicks when I was a kid, made me scared of leeches for the rest of my life. This movie and Puppet Master, leeches terrify me more than anything, except for like maybe velociraptors and gremlins. However, we got Verno here because he picked the movie. Verno, what is up from Blood Splatter Chatter? How you doing, my man?
My man, leeches and quicksand, two things that I thought were going to be a much bigger obstacle in my adult life that neither have ever came up yet. But thanks for giving me a pick, brother. Appreciate it, and happy to be here.
Yeah, happy to have you here. I'll tell you, one time I was walking through a very muddy part of a field, and my foot sank like 6 inches, and I immediately was like, oh my God, I'm in quicksand. What's going on? Speaking of quicksand,
I thought you were going to say immediately you thought you had a leech on your dick, but no, you were good.
I think that every day. You don't feel that way?
We're so far so good.
All right. Speaking of quicksand, we pulled him out, and speaking of leeches on the dick, it's Taki. What is up, my man?
Hey, Station. What's happening?
Haven't seen you in a while, man.
Do we still say Station?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Good.
Station,
good.
pop, pop, boom, whatever the hell you want.
Pop, pop, boom. Yeah, there you go.
Suck it, I think.
Yeah, yes, suck it's a thing we do stuff. Now.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. We do all of those things now.
Yeah.
So good to have you here, man, to talk about this film, bro.
Thank you for bringing me back. Hopefully we won't piss everybody off like we did last time.
Hell yeah.
Oh, we probably will. Who knows?
I don't think this movie is going to cause as much commotion as Do the Right Thing, but who knows, man? I mean, Do the Right Thing, by the way, one of the greatest fucking films of the 90s, right? Or 80s. Was it 89? It was 89, right?
89, yep.
Oh, okay.
89. Yep. All right. One of the greatest films of 89. There's a lot of good films in 89. Speaking of great films in 89, Stu did a home video in 1989. It was a sex tape. It's illegal to watch now, but it was very well
shot.
Bro,
I was 7, dog. I was 7.
Man.
Chill out.
That's why it's illegal. I'm just saying it was very well
shot. Did you watch this, Robbie?
Okay. I was here for the Do the Right Thing show. That would have been a more politically correct transition. But hey, what's up, fellas? Glad to be here. Verno, great pick, brother.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, man.
Yeah.
Happy to have y'all here. We gave Brooks and Jelani the night off. They threatened to sue me for some reason, but I don't.
Wow.
They didn't. They both just pussied out. Anyway, we're moving on to Stand By Me. This is Verno's pick, man. So let me tell you something. I loved this movie as a kid very much. And in fact, I loved the song Stand By Me. And most of my favorite songs from when I was very, very young, they all come from movies. Like if you would ask me at like 7, 8 years old, Robbie, what are your favorite songs? I'd go Ghostbusters, Power of Love, Stand By Me, and Lean On Me. Right? Like those were and it was all because of movies, right? But man, this movie was something that I watched so often as a kid. I absolutely loved it. Made me terrified of growing up, right? I was absolutely terrified. But I haven't seen this movie probably since I was a teenager, Verno. So I was really excited to check this one out. It's been a very, very long time. I've never read The Body, right? So I've never read the novella. Sure. It was part of the, in 1982, Stephen King did 4 novellas in one collection called Different Seasons. And it was his first step outside of his typical horror stuff. And it's probably why he had to do it as a short story collection. Shawshank Redemption comes from that collection, by the way. But man, on the rewatch, I really like this film. I think it holds up. And I do remember this as a kid. But diving into it, Benny King's Stand By Me had a big resurgence as far as a popular song because of this movie. Now, it was originally, of course, called in the novella The Body. Rob Reiner decided to change it to Stand By Me because he loved the power of that song as a song that would echo not just the time, but the message and meaning behind the movie, right? It's a coming of age tale. 4 kids. They decide to go on a 20-mile journey to find a dead body off by the side of the railroad tracks. And if anybody remembers what it's like being 12 years old, a 20-mile journey, that's the 12-year-old version of Lord of the Rings, brother.
Right, exactly.
This is their Lord of the Rings, right? There, back again. It's The Hobbit. It's going on a mission. It's hero's journey. It's got really stellar performances from everybody except for Will Wheaton. But
Wow.
right, we just have another channel, but really stellar performances from everybody. One of Kiefer Sutherland's first big roles, Rob Reiner. So the guy who did Flashdance in 9.5 weeks was initially going to do this film, but he wanted to take a 6-month vacation. So they had to get this movie going, and they got Rob Reiner, and he only had done 2 movies up to that point. One of them being This is Spinal Tap. He was only known for comedy, right? Because of those 2 movies and being the actor from All in the Family, this was kind of a gamble, right? And at one point, production even got shut down because Embassy Films got sold to Coca-Cola. And then a producer who was the creator of All in the Family gave Rob Reiner $8 million to finish the movie, to keep it on track. And then they had to basically strong arm Columbia into distributing it. But man, on the rewatch, the movie holds up. I think I know why I loved this movie as a kid. This is a movie, it's rated R. It's about a kid's journey, right? But it's not written down towards kids, right? So even as a kid growing up in the 80s, this felt very real because childhood friendships and childhood adventures kind of feel more real back then than friendships and adventures do today, if that makes sense, right? It's it's like a mythologized version of a childhood. We've seen this in so many different coming of age movies. Sandlot is one that sticks out to me.
Yep.
Hell, another Stephen King product. It feels a lot this way, right? So Stand By Me, I think really, really holds up. I really like it. When I was rewatching it, I remember being a kid being more terrified of the teenage bullies. And this one, I realized, like, they're not really in the movie that much. And I was talking to Brooks about this earlier this week. I was like, I almost kind of forget movies back in the day. They went in, they went out, an hour and a half, they were done, right? Stand By Me is one of those movies. If this movie is made today, it'd be like a 3-hour production.
Yep.
They'd have to dive deep into the motivations of Kiefer Sutherland's character and the whole machinations of this gang and all this kind of shit. You didn't need to do this back then. We just understood, these are not good guys. And the younger kids are the good guys, right? But anyway, I really liked the movie on the rewatch. This was really great. The number one surprise I had, though, Verno, was realizing that your namesake is in this movie, dude. That cracks me up, dude.
It adds a lot to the rewatch for me. This is why I'm Verno, by the way. It's from this movie.
That's what I thought, man. So why don't you tell us why you picked it? What do you think, and what's your history?
I just like everybody. You know what I mean? This was one like when you told me I had a pick, and I'm like, I run a horror channel. I'm gonna do something crazy. You know what I mean? Necromantic 2, or just something like to gross everybody out. And then I'm like, no, I'll do that on my channel. I want to do something I really can't do on that channel. And then I wanted to do something that like actually like meant something to me. So I'm looking through everything, and this was like the second I found it, I'm like, boom, Stand By Me. It's just there's something. My wife had never seen this. She's 10 years younger than me. And when I showed her it a few years back, and that's when I told you recently, that's when I realized like how great of a movie it is, in my opinion. Like as good as it is for kids, it's more potent to adult Verno than it was to me when I was a kid. It's so like emotional, Stu. I'm always talking about things bringing me to tears. We're talking about horror movies. I'm like, it made me cry, or it didn't make me cry, or whatever. This one, I don't know what it is, man. The second the song hits in the beginning, Richard Dreyfuss in that car, I'm fighting back tears. The end of the movie, I got tears rolling down my face every time. This movie just like, it makes me so like long for my childhood more than anything else. Sandlot is the other movie that's like comparable. But Sandlot, I don't know if fantastical is the right word, but it's more of like a movie. Like it's more of a comedy. It's less like believable the way the kids are acting. This is so grounded. And to your point, Robbie, it's like these friendships are so genuine. And like it reminds me of how real the friendships were back then and how like deep the conversations could be and how real the problems were and all that. So it's just, I think it's like the greatest coming of age story of all time. But the way it makes you like, I don't know, like put your childhood into perspective is just so cool to me. It's, I don't know, it's the music, every one of these characters I adore, like especially the 4 kids. Like I love all 4 of these kids, and it's a classic, man. It's one of my favorites, and for me it really holds up. I think you could shoot it today, shoot it the exact same way, and it would still be a hit. I think you could just like pretend it's never been released. You'd be like, oh, it's a period piece. It took place in the 50s, and it would still work like perfectly today.
Except for nowadays, it would be a fucking CG train on a green screen. It'd be obvious and all that shit, right? But they just used a long, like a long lens on that one to make the train look closer to them. Plus, Rob Reiner yelled at Jerry O'Connell and Will Wheaton to be like, "You're wasting fucking adults' times right now. Get it fucking done. This one take, God damn it." The story behind this movie is really fun and at the same time tragic, because we know that a lot of the kids that are part of this film had troubled childhoods, and a lot of it started around the time of this movie. Corey Feldman, River Phoenix, Will Wheaton in particular. Speaking of troubled childhoods, what about you, Taki? What do you think about the film?
Well, if I had to choose one in a fight between Crypto and Mighty Mouse, I'm not sure which one I would go with. So that's a little bit of a joke from the movie. You guys didn't laugh too hard, so I just thought I'd explain it. Anyway, yeah, Crypto, I agree. Maybe. Anyway, up until yesterday when I watched this movie, I would have bet that I'd watched this movie before, but yesterday was the first time I ever watched this. About 10% of this movie I could tell you about. Like, there was a lot of stuff that had been just conveyed to me verbally before the internet age on the playgrounds in my childhood about kids watching this movie at their house and then they're telling me on the playground. So much so I thought I saw it. And then as I started watching it yesterday, I started to realize, hey, I never saw this movie before. I've never seen these scenes. I know my memory isn't what it used to be, but it's not that bad. And to say that, I mean, it's just unbelievable. Not only does it still hold up, but it's so very rings true. I mean, it's just a class act all the way from beginning to end. Everything fell into place. Everybody executed, in my opinion, even Will Wheaton. I think he executed as well. I think he did a great job.
Agreed.
And it's a classic. Automatic classic. I mean, I wish I could say it's in my top 10, but I just can't put it there yet. It needs a little bit more time, a little bit more thought, but it's a definite contender. Maybe the best movie I've seen this year.
Hell yeah.
Oh, hell yeah. All right. High praise from Taki. We got a special treat for you tonight. We actually have somebody who was in the movie.
All right.
Yeah, the guy who was the pie eating contest
character
this year. It's Stu from Dr. Doom's fan club.
No. Oh man, that was one of the
pass the castor oil, bitch.
What do you think about the film, Stu?
Well done, bro. Incredible upon rewatch, right? Like like you, Robbie. It had been decades since I had seen this movie before, and it was just, I don't know, man. It's so beautiful to watch these guys go through all these beautifully like reminiscent things. Like growing up, to me, the train tracks was a huge intersection in my life. Like we used that as a passageway to so many things. I used to get to the mall off the train track, so that like it just hit home and in ways like you completely forgot about. As a 42-year-old man, like so many memories just came out of the woodwork, and that was like the most beautiful part about the rewatch to me. But I gotta say, man, like what Vern said about the whole packaging, the end, and the way they framed it. That one line talking about the friendships you have at 12 years old versus like the lack thereof completely as an adult rings so true. It's so hard and just so difficult to keep a consistent friendship. I feel like as an adult male with other adult males. So like, I thought the way it framed it at the end, particularly, was just so gorgeous and poetic to me. So yeah, profound on so many levels, as we'll get into.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's got a great cast. You know, these 4 kids acted their hearts out, including Will Wheaton. Let's just
he's terrible in Star Trek. Let me just say, I think he's dog shit in Star Trek. And then this, it's like, what happened? Was it drugs? What happened? Because he's great in this. Terrible. In
He is fantastic.
Yeah, there's a story.
Children are not allowed on the bridge.
Shut up, Wesley.
Anyway, yeah, it was a great cast, man, including some of the other performances. So I'm very excited to see what you have to pick out as a performance you want to highlight, Verno. It's your movie, you get to start.
Oh man, I could totally go with anyone. I was gonna go Verno because I think he's so funny and like there's so many of the best lines come from him. But Chris Chambers, I think River Phoenix's character is like he's the most complex one. And he's got like such an interesting story with where he's like, you kind of can juxtapose him with Kiefer Sutherland's character. Like they're the 2 leaders of the groups, but the way he's looking out for everyone and like, just like the expectations that he has on him from the community because of the family that he's in, but he's looked at as this tough guy, but you can tell he's smart. I love that they make him a lawyer in the end, because then you can look back on it, it's like, oh yeah, he's got all those skills that you would need. And I guess that's just one of the things about like all the characters, but I think maybe especially him is how much they care about each other. And like, you know what I mean? Like how real it is. It's like, yeah, these kids are sweet. And I think a lot of kids are sweet. And everybody's like, oh, teenagers and kids, but they're not. I think most of them are pretty sweet and they do like care about how they feel, their friends feel and everything. And so I love him for that.
His character's great too, because, you know, he's the one who's expected to become Kiefer Sutherland in the next like high school class or whatever, right? Like he's the guy who stole the milk money. And there's the moment where Will Wheaton's dad, Gordy, I believe is his character's name, right? Gordy's dad tells him he stole the milk money. Sounds like a thief to me. And like just the judgment that we'll put on even kids just based on their family, where they're from, what side of the tracks they're from, shit like that. One of the things I love about the music of the movie, and one of the tragic parts of the movie, is that he overcomes that, and he winds up dying, getting in the middle of a fight between 2 people that has nothing to do with them, right?
Which fits with the character, with the way he's portrayed as a kid. Hell yeah,
really does. And then River Phoenix, he had that moment where he was talking about stealing the milk money and the expectations of the community. He broke down crying. Rob Reiner said, in order to get that emotion out of him, he said, think about the one time an adult has really disappointed you. Man, he thought about something wrong. He never revealed it. He never revealed what he was talking about, but you could feel that pain from that kid in that scene. And then, of course, we know where River's life went to. And, of course, he died at a very early age. And he would have been, if he would have lived, I think he would have been one of the greatest actors of his generation, man. 100%. Dude.
Yeah, like, it's amazing, like the gravitas and like the fierce nobility he was able to bring to that character. Like despite, like it was so like intense and like almost overwhelming at times. It's such an immaculate performance. And yeah, the place he went in that crying scene, man, it's just like it's something else. And you can see even what's his name, Will Wheaton, like kind of he just doesn't know how to deal with it almost. Like it's almost like, you know what I mean? It's almost above his pay grade as a fellow child actor. So it was crazy. I just love his role as protector and shepherd, like throughout the movie and the way he carries himself. It was brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. Even when he goes and grabs Corey Feldman's character off of the railroad track. Right?
Can I add, he is why I got the nickname Verno, by the way. I had like a best friend and we had these 2 girls that we used to hang out with. We showed them this movie for the first time and they said, Shane, which is my name, you look like River Phoenix, his character. And then my buddy Geiger started being like, he's fucking Verno. He's Verno. And then Vern, you son of the whore, you was under the porch, wasn't you? And that just stuck somehow. It was him giving me shit, calling me Verno.
Hell yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you for sharing that, man. I appreciate that. What about you, Taki? What's a performance you want to highlight?
Well, I guess I got to go with Teddy Duché, the French person that was French American that was offended by, you know, the jokes about the dog being pregnant and the garbage being empty or whatever that joke was. He was the most troubled one out of these 4 troubled youth. And they were each troubled in their own way. But Teddy had an ear that was burnt to prove how bad his house was. And he had a brother too, right? Didn't Teddy have a brother too?
I don't remember if they said he had a brother.
If he did, he was a loony.
Yeah, exactly. He wasn't one of those that had a brother.
Chris,
I thought
Chris had a brother. Chris
had
brother
the brother.
Is the second guy.
And then Will's brother, of course, died.
And Verno's
brother.
Verno had a brother too. Verno's brother and
Yeah.
Chris's brother were in the gang.
Okay.
Okay. So he didn't have a brother. I thought the scene with the junkyard man, where the kids are scot-free, and the junkyard man, because he's been around for a while, says, "Okay, I know what card I have to play, and I know who that kid is. So let's talk about his daddy, and let's see how he would react to that." And he's supposed to be the tough guy kind of the crew, even though we all know that Chris is really, when it push comes to shove, he's the real protector of the group. But Teddy is the one who's always going to be talking trash, is always going to kind of be the motivator. And, but there's a deep tragedy and sadness there. That's why, he was playing chicken with the train, kind of like Ace was. Kiefer Sutherland was playing chicken with the delivery truck with the logs on it. And then it was he's just a really sad character. And the funny thing was, when push came to shove, he was one of the first people that everybody expected Verno to run off, but no one expected Teddy to run off, and he was one of the first people to hell out of there when push came to shove. So
I at the very tail end of my Dynamite show today, I said this, we were talking about that we were doing this tonight, and I was like, I'm going to be very honest. I think it's Corey Feldman's best performance of his career. Like 100%. He really, him and Rivers, like they really fuel that.
They're right there on the edge. Like,
yeah, dude, they
just
really kill it.
Yeah.
And what's crazy is, like, we know that Will Wheaton, I saw Patrick mention this in the chat. We know now that he had like abusive parents who forced him into becoming a child actor. It was an uncomfortable situation. We also know River Phoenix and Corey Feldman had similar journeys, right? And Corey Feldman has revealed that, like, making this movie was him and River's first introduction to drugs, to women, to like all kinds of things that like eventually kind of really influenced the rest of their lives. And it's kind of tragic, the behind the scenes, but man, he really nails this performance. If you think of the best performances from Corey Feldman, they're all from the 80s, first of all.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. So it's like, it's either this, Goonies, or Gremlins, or Friday the 13th Part 4.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And
this
I
is
think
better than those. I agree.
Yeah, hands down. So such a great pick, Taki. What about you, Stu?
He's got Stephen King laying the foundation. He's got Rob Reiner directing him. So that's part of the reason why it's his best performance.
Yeah.
And he kind of has the Danny Bonaducci syndrome, or the even better Jerry Mathers syndrome, where he, no matter, he got to be so big as a young actor, when it came time for him to get bigger parts later on, all you're going to see is Corey Feldman. And he got stereotyped in it. Who's going to cast him in a lead role? Even now, even in all those movies, all his best movies, Lost Boys and Goonies, he's not in the lead role.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And those references you just made really helped me understand like how, like, your age. How old? Like, Danny Bonaducci.
Oh yeah, I didn't even think. Actually, Danny, both of them are too old for me. Actually,
all of us knew exactly who you were talking about, but there's some 20-year-old watching somewhere who's like, "Who the fuck is Danny
the
Bonaducci?"
his reality show era was wild.
Gary Coleman.
Hold on. Does he have any lead roles? Like, is there any like Corey Feldman movies? He's always kind of the sidekick.
Surely he's the lead in like Lost Boys Part 2, which I never saw.
Yeah, maybe something like that. Exactly.
Yeah,
Most
because
of them
he
are
was
small.
always losing out to Corey Haim.
Yeah.
Right. Which has to be a whole other problem, right? Like growing up and like, you're the Coreys and you're like, well, I'm the Corey am I not as sexy? Why do I not get to have like crazy naked sex with Nicole Eckert and Blown Away? Great movie. Underappreciated.
Wait, how do you know it was naked though?
Because I know, brother.
Oh, wow.
That was one of my favorite movies, and I've been hunting down a DVD of that ever since. What about you, Stu? Speaking of hot naked sex with Corey Haim.
I'm gonna go, since I know he's gonna get neglected if I don't. I'm gonna go with Will Wheaton as Gordy. Man, I thought he did an incredible job. First off, A1 storyteller, but you know, Robbie, you were talking about like Echoes of Sandlot. Him and Smalls like have just like such a similarity to me. I've always grouped them together, so I have a fondness for him in that respect. But yeah, I thought he delivered like in all the moments where he really needed to. I felt like there was he suffered kind of, I think in retrospect, with like that crying scene there at the end, trying to kind of follow. Trying to follow River Phoenix is an impossible task, I think, in that situation. However, like the bridge scene when he's like super terrified and telling Homeboy to get up and run for his life, that felt so real and authentic. And like, I just love the way that, all these, one of the beauties of this movie is how all these kids are carrying their different baggage. But like him and the death of his brother, his dad is such a dick, like such an A1. Wrong kid died. So it's like, I don't know. For me, his back and forth, his transformation, the things he went through, in relation to the rest of the characters was I thought particularly moving. And, they banked it all on him more or less. And I know he really, it is what it is afterward with Star Trek, but I really thought he did an incredible job here. I thought he was the anchor that, the film needed him to be.
Will Wheaton is good in the movie. I like to talk shit about Will Wheaton just because of Star Trek. I'm a Trekker and I hate fucking Wesley Crusher. Yeah. And even as a kid, I fucking hated Wesley Crusher, man, right? I was like, why is this fucking kid in here? I don't want to see this shit. I'm a kid. I don't need to see myself in Star Trek. I just want to see Captain Picard and Riker and Counselor Troy. I was really big into Counselor Troy back in the day. But I think Will Wheaton's best performance, Toy Soldiers. Y'all remember Toy Soldiers? That's a really good movie. Toy Soldiers. Yeah. They're at like they're at some kind of like prep school or a military school or something, and there's like a terrorist organization that takes over for it or takes it over, and one of the kids dies and shit like that. Y'all don't remember Toy Soldiers?
I remember it. I remember you did it like last year, correct?
No, I've never. No, I did Small Soldiers a couple of years ago. Way different movie.
Okay.
But no, I think Will Wheaton's great in this. And what's interesting is I've never read the novella, but apparently in the novella, all four of the main characters have equal footing, right? But Rob Reiner knew that you needed to have one main character, and Gordy was a character that he related to the most. So he made Gordy the main character and changed some things up. Like it's Chris in the novel that pulls the gun out on Kiefer Sutherland's character. Ace? Is that his name, right?
Yeah.
Speaking of Ace, that's my pick. I love Kiefer Sutherland in this movie. First of all, it scared the shit out of me when I was a kid, right? And when I was in middle school, there was a kid in high school who lived on my street who was like bleach blonde hair, bully, always fucking with people. And I'd be walking down the street with my homies and he would like say shit and we'd be like, just keep walking faster. Just keep walking faster and just ignore him, right? But I as an adult, when I watched this movie and then seeing some of the behind the scenes features, Rob Reiner says he cast Kiefer because he knew Kiefer had a soft-spoken voice and he felt that would be more threatening if the villain of this gang, right? Like the main villain, the leader of this gang was a soft-spoken, measured kind of performance. Because he knew anybody else would like ham it up. They would be like in Act 3 of a Scream movie when Ghostface gets revealed. Anybody else would have done that. They would have been like, "Ooh, crazy kid,
feel a little woozy here."
Yeah, but he felt very real because honestly, some of the scariest bullies when you're growing up are not the class clowns. They're not the flamboyant people. They are very measured and soft-spoken, if that makes sense, right? So I think his casting and his performance, top-notch. A year later, he's David in The Lost Boys, and his career cemented. Even though we tried to ruin it with too many seasons of 24, we still remember fondly Kiefer Sutherland. Let's talk about style and structure. The style of the movie, it looks great. It looks fine. It's kind of got this like nostalgic haze to it, cinematically speaking. And it's something that we see in a lot of films. If you look at the cinematography of things like Sandlot and other films that dive into the importance of childhood, especially during the 50s and the 60s or something like that, I think a lot of cinematography pulls from this movie. Soft lighting, the usage of scenery in particular, but at the same time, a lot of those forest shots are done in a warehouse. Talk about the set dressing. That looks amazing. Wow. You could not convince me that any bit of this was on a set in a warehouse. But a lot of the forest scenes are in a fucking warehouse that they built the set. It's like Legend, right?
That's
or something
insanity.
where you're like, there's no way that you created this. It looks absolutely authentic.
Hell yeah.
So the style the movie looks great, and the structure, it's a perfect structure. The only thing that throws me off about this movie is some of the narration. I don't think Richard Dreyfuss is the best pick for Gordy grown up. I don't necessarily like the bookending feature of him. It feels kind of shoved in. I don't necessarily like that on my rewatch.
Wow.
I know it's a big part of the movie. I know it's one of the most parodied parts of the movies.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Richard Dreyfuss, I think, kind of blows in this movie.
Wow.
And that's the one bit of the structure I don't like. But aside from that, it's a tight movie. Doesn't take too long. And for a long time, Rob Reiner thought he was going to get rid of the pie eating scene because it does not make sense. You don't need that part for the movie, and it runs long, but it is one of the most memorable parts of this movie. Yeah. And it was the part that I remembered the most. In fact, I wish I would have had the time to prepare. I would have eaten like 5 blueberry pies, and my first thought tonight would have just made me harping blueberry pie all over.
I love, dude. My favorite part was like how you could see they didn't like sometimes quite line up the shot with the throw up stream. It was just, I love the lo-fi feeling of it. So
I loved it too, man. But I think style and structure wise, it pretty much excels. What about you, Verno?
Style wise, you pretty much spot on. I agree with everything you said. It's simple. There's not doing anything overly fancy, but I do love all the ones that obviously weren't in the warehouse. If you tell me that fucking train bridge was in a warehouse, I'm gonna fucking you blow my mind. But just like a lot of the train track shots and like the wide angles that you're getting at the woods and stuff looks really good. Structure wise, I think it's so perfect, mainly because it's like what was that movie where they're on the train? Captain America's trying to get to the front of the train. Never mind. Anyway, it's a movie where it's just like it's some foreign gentleman that directed the movie.
Like Captain America, the goddamn superhero shows up.
Yeah, no, it's
I don't know Winter Soldier. What the fuck are you talking about, bro?
The actor's name, Stu. You would know it for
Chris
sure.
Evans.
Chris Evans is on a train.
Snowpiercer.
Snow fucking piercer. Yes, it's a movie where you're at point A and you're trying to get to point B. You know what I mean? They set up the goal. It's very simple. We just gotta walk. We gotta walk to. Sorry, we gotta walk. Thank you, Patrick. We gotta walk to this body. But I think the way that they utilize the flashbacks is perfectly done. It's not like to where it's like becomes like a thing that is okay. Now we're gonna get to the point. Now we're gonna flashback. Now we're gonna do Chris Chambers flashback. The only time they're flashing back is one when Vern's under the porch, you son of a whore. And then like it's going back to tell Gordy's story with his brother. And I think the way that those are intercut in with the pie eating story is just enough to break up the trip there. And then like really noticed it this time. It's like an hour and 10 minutes of the movie and they're at the body. And you're like, damn, it's like you are there like so quick. Like everything leads up to that. And then in my opinion, the best part of the movie is the ending, kind of like exactly what you said, Stu. And since you butchered the line, I love the line so much. I've never had friends later on in life like the ones I had when I was 12. Jesus, does anyone balling? Like that just fucking kills me. It just rips my soul apart. And it did back then. I always found that very profound when I was 12. And I was like, shit, you know what I mean? We better not, like, I believed him then. And it turned out to be truer than I would have ever imagined. You know what I mean? It's like, it's so hard to get that back. But I think that's what makes it so good. It's so sad at the end there when you learn about Chris Chambers dying. And the other big line is they're talking about Vern and Corey Feldman's character just become other faces in the hall. And I'm thinking Johnny Hoffman, miss you, brother. Scott Gaba. These are like my best friends when we were 12. But by the time I graduated high school, they were just faces in the hall. And it's like, that just happens. That's just how it goes. And it's like, it's so sad. It's like so sad to me that it just kills me. But yeah, I think it's perfect.
Dude, you're right. There are people that I've spent many summers with as a kid that I have no idea who the fuck they are anymore, or where they are. You know what I'm saying? I've been very fortunate though.
I was thinking about
basically
that.
being in the same place for so long. Like I do still have, like, Brooks and Jelani are my road dogs. You know what I'm saying? We've known each other for over 20 years, right? So over 25 years at this point. And that's a rarity. And that's something I learned even in my own friend group. There are many friends that I have. They're like, I can't believe you have friends that you still hang out with that for 25 years. I'm like, yeah, what are you talking about, man? Is this not everybody's experience? But at the same time, I can't forget about Patrick Osmer, Abraham Sarvastani. Where the fuck are y'all? I love you guys. We were ride or die, man. We knew everything about each other, right? Now all of a sudden it is this tragic element of this film about friendships. Especially, especially when you're a boy in the 80s, there's something about those friendships and they're so powerful.
The freedom,
so important.
Freedom that there's no kids now that are going on a 20-mile trek.
Well, I never went on a 20-mile trek, but I do remember going on like a 5 to 10-mile trek with my friends back in those days. And you come back, you just went on a goddamn adventure. Like I said, Lord of the Rings, bruh.
It's like
you know
quietly
what I'm saying?
Transformative. Absolutely.
I remember being out in the middle of the fucking who knows where, and all of a sudden the streetlights came on, and we are all booking back on our bikes like crazy. And I saw somebody in the comments mention friends on bikes having adventures. Man, Stranger Things owes a lot to this movie as well. In fact, Stranger Things owes a lot to Stephen King. But, and like other movies that E.T. kind of encapsulates that just a little bit, not to the point that Stand By Me does. But man,
you know what I was going to say, just to compare it to another movie, is like Toy Story. Toy Story is another movie that you watch it as a kid and, it's perfect for a kid, obviously. But then you watch it as an adult and you realize this whole thing is about Woody feeling like he's getting older and being replaced by something newer. And I think this movie does that, where it's like, it's perfect for an adult later on. You're like, oh my God. Like, I think we got it when we were kids, what you were saying, but it hits just as hard when you're an adult.
Well, what's crazy about the movie is that it is made for adults to be nostalgic about their childhood and to reflect on it. But it was still just as powerful to us when we were kids watching it back in the day. Those of us that watch it. What about you, Taki? What do you think about the style and structure?
Style and structure. I'll take it from more of a thoughtful way here. I like the way that the adults in the movie, all of them kind of were like combined into this monster, and how they each played a villain and how they let the kids down. And I like the way, like, you could see like Kiefer Sutherland and his friends, like they're slowly becoming more and more adults to let the kids down and kind of put them down. And, it kind of all comes to fruition when Chris tells his story and we find out about the teacher. This is like somebody that's held to a very high standard that you should always trust. And he turns in the milk money to her. And what does she do? She steals it and goes and buys her dress. And this is like the height of the movie here. And it's just, every single adult in this movie outside of Teddy's parents, like you could tell that they mean well, but at the same time, they're letting the kids down. So I just thought that theme, they just kept hitting it over and over again with every single adult. They just would always kind of fall down. That, and the movie was a little light on the hotties. Actually, it was very light on the hotties.
Yeah, right. Is there a female in this entire movie?
His mother.
Besides his mom, who's the mom from Gremlins, right? Like,
it's the mom from Gremlins.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
There should have been a Wendy Peppercorn scene, like in the movie or something like that, right? I like that. Stu, what about you, man? What do you think about the style and structure? Speaking of womanless.
There were more dogs than women in this. No, I'm joking. If Lard Ass is seen, there was a lot of women. So.
Oh, there you go. Yes.
That's true.
I loved it. I loved it. Robbie, I'm curious, why didn't you like the Dreyfuss bookends?
I thought that his narration was really not top notch, and I thought he himself looked a little fucking doofy, man. To be honest with you, I don't know. There's the thing where I don't think I really like Richard Dreyfuss.
Yeah,
I love the movie What About Bob? But
Yeah, me too.
aside from that,
yeah.
like I don't know, man.
I wrote in my notes, and you know, your opinion is your opinion. I certainly respect it, but I wrote best narration of all time?
I'll get the
Question
fuck outta
mark.
here.
I think it is. I think it is. I really think it is.
No.
I think
It's
he's got such a
fantastic.
good voice, and it's like I don't know. Yeah, I
Listen,
think it's the greatest.
Can
of all time.
I just want to point out one scene in that sense. You know, there's we get that great, you know, campfire breakdown scene, and then there's that scene early in the morning where Gordy's on the tracks and that deer pops up, and that narration that goes with that. You know,
Yes,
I
brother.
saw it. I didn't tell anybody. I haven't said anything until I'm like writing it down right here.
Love
I'm butchering
that.
the line again, Vern. But like it's beautiful. It's so beautifully like well done. It's just like that one brief moment, but it's gorgeous, and like that's I think like moments like that are what makes the movie sing. So I love the you know the introduction, the guys in the clubhouse like playing cards. I love you know how it breaks down each of them. Like it was I think it was just dope in that sense. And then you're on your way. You know what I mean? Like there's a dead like it's real simple setup and just like you know just the episodic nature of the things that happened to them along the way was dope. And I think you know the style they do a good job. You know with Feldman's dad on the beaches of Normandy, the music, which we'll talk about. But I think you know they do a good job of kind of you know keeping it in that post World War II, you know, into the 50s. It's such an interesting time in America where there's like so I think there's so much going on that's not being talked about. You know what I mean? And all these kids have immense burdens on their like we said earlier, immense burdens on their shoulders. So you know I think it's gorgeous how it gives each kid their own moment to shine. Every kid brings it, you know, I think 150%. So yeah, it all works for me. But you know, both the present and the past.
You know what I just thought of? Sorry to jump in, but you just made me think. Like I feel like Vern is the only one that maybe doesn't, and even that come from a really like rough home, and even his brother who's in the gang. He seems like the sweetest one that's in the game.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
He's got to tell. You know what I mean? So I think that's
Yeah.
just some solid writing that I've never noticed till now.
And it's dude, how wild is Jerry O'Connell's glow up, bro? Like it's,
I know. So I used to tell everybody,
It's
if I look
so-
like Verno now, look, he should have seen him in Scream 2. Okay, he looked great.
God,
I never
it's
ended up
amazing.
there.
Yeah.
I find that suspect. I just have to say for the record.
Noted.
I think
All
he
right,
might
let's
have-
talk about
he
the
might have-
music real
he might
quick.
have known like LL Cool J's surgeon. I'm just saying.
All right, let's talk about the music real quick. It is done by Jack Nietzsche, who we know as the composer of films such as The Exorcist, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, Cruisin', An Officer and a Gentleman, Starman, Stand By Me, of course, 9.5 Weeks, The Whoopee Boys, Next of Kin, Mermaids, and his last one was The Crossing Guard, the Sean Penn film. I really like the music in this film. So he did the score on Starman. So he had Anthony Marinelli, I believe is his name, is a synthesizer artist, right? Who worked extensively with Michael Jackson, right? So for instance, Anthony Marinelli is one of the guys who did a lot of work on Thriller, for instance, right? He's got a YouTube channel. You can check him out. It's really cool if you're into like music and composition and synthesizers in particular. Check out his channel. Really cool stuff. If any of these blue wrenches out there in the chat can look up his channel, really, really cool stuff. So he worked with Jack on Starman, and he worked with Jack on Stand By Me. And he talks about in a video that he did on his channel that they did a whole score called The Body. And then Rob Reiner comes in and goes, "Hey man, we're changing the name of the movie to Stand By Me, so every score, every cue has to fit in to the song Stand By Me." So then they had to redo the whole goddamn score, right? But he's a synthesizer guy back in the 80s, so part of what he was doing was sampling what was it called? oh my God, resynthesize certain notes and shit like that. So there's a lot more going on behind the scenes, but the score is very, very small. It's like 15 minutes of musical cues, and they're all based on Benny King's Stand By Me, which is not even, the song itself is not super utilized in the film, right? Like you hear it at the end. And speaking of Anthony Marinelli's connection to Michael Jackson was going to do a cover of Stand By Me for this movie.
Shut up.
Oh, shit.
Yes. They wanted Michael Jackson to do a cover, and then somebody decided that the Benny King version was good enough and felt classic, and they should have kept it that way. But man, I kind of miss being in a world where Michael Jackson did a cover of Stand By Me. Because darling, stay. Dude, could you imagine? Like, I think it would be good, man.
That might be right though, as far as it fitting like the 50s thing. But yes, I'm still with you. I would sacrifice that to have Michael Jackson do it.
Absolutely. I'm here for it.
There is a U2 Bruce Springsteen version out there somewhere. I haven't heard it yet. But I will be checking that out. Yeah. That's who I would have picked in the mid-80s to do Stand By Me.
It's weird because like it feels like, I don't know, is it Reiner that wanted that to be a big, because it feels like they want that song to be like such a prominent part of the film, but it doesn't really feel like it is. You know what I mean? It
doesn't, but it's in the score, because all the score bits are like boom.
That's what I was like the way it opens.
Yeah.
Like, but it's not just using the song over and over.
It's not like
it's not like the Batman where they just use the Nirvana song over and fucking over and over and over.
Right. Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Could you imagine this movie if every fucking 5 minutes it was like something's in the way? But also, it's got a really great soundtrack, including the Silhouettes, Buddy Holly, the Del Viking, Shirley and Lee, the Bobettes, Benny King, of course, Jerry Lee Lewis, the Coasters, Yakety Yak, Don't Talk Back. Like music that even felt like childhood music in our childhood, right? Because they were just such popular songs. And back when we had oldies stations on the radio, even back then, man, like I'd be like, shit, WZYP ain't playing Kid and Play. I'm going to throw it over to the oldie station and listen to some Great Balls of Fire or something like that. So I think the music's pretty solid throughout the movie. What do you think, Verno?
I love it. It really like stands out to me. That's one of those things I thought after I told you Stand By Me. I'm like, oh, at least it'll be easy to talk about the music. It's so prevalent in the movie. But just like what you said, like the way that they utilize Stand By Me with the different arrangement that they do and like the version that they do for the score, that's what gets me right off the bat. That opening scene with that score with Richard Dreyfuss in the car, like it just sucks me in. You know what else I love? I don't know how it starts, but a night without armor in a savage land. I love that shit. I walk away singing that all the time. I used to do this when I worked at the strip club or just whatever. I walk up to people and it's like an annoying thing to do. You just start out, you go lollipop, lollipop, oh lolly, 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 lollipop, and then walk away. And they're like, it's like you fucking need that pop. It's like it begs you to boom, 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 boom. It's one of my favorite songs of all time. And the way it's like so fun when they're walking down the train tracks. Yeah, just another thought while I'm on that. I love that scene when they're on the train tracks and it has Chris Chambers and Gordy, and they're walking in the front. And that's when they're talking about something really deep. I don't know what it is, but it's something really deep. And that's when it goes back like, well, would Mighty Mouse win in a fight with? And that like is so true. Like when we're 12-year-old kids, some of those 12-year-olds are really, really immature. And then some of them are way more mature. It's like a bigger variance there. And I totally remember that. I had a couple friends at 12 that we could talk about anything. And then there was Scott Gable. And Gable was fucking, you know what I mean? It's like he was definitely Verno in this movie. I was not Verno, by the way. Not really. It was just Geiger that called me that, and it stuck.
Hell yeah. What about you, Taki? What do you think about the music, man?
I think it was the music. They did a good job choosing it. It just didn't stick with me because it's not didn't have any sentimental value to me. It was like the music is from watching, like my only memories of that music are from being up past midnight watching Time Life CD ads on TV with Wolfman Jack and do you remember this one when we played it back in the day? He didn't talk like that though. I'm giving Wolfman Jack doing Ebonics, but
bro, think about this. If they did those commercials today, it'd be like, here's a golden oldie from back in the day.
shit.
Hi, my
Steve-O.
name is what?
Yeah, exactly.
My name is.
I wish I was a little bit taller.
No shit.
This movie is what makes all these songs nostalgic to me. You know what I mean? It's this movie is why they feel nostalgic.
Yeah, you're probably right about that, man.
And instead of the Big Bopper and Eddie Valley, it would be like Tupac died on the Vegas Strip in 1996.
Right.
But do you remember this hit featuring Dr. Dre, California Love, here on this Time Life collection?
This is how we do it.
Bump, 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 bump.
Oh, yeah,
this is how we do it. I'll do Montel Jordan's the shit.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Good points, though, Taki. I really appreciate that. Stu, what do you think about the music, even though it didn't have Montel Jordan?
Yeah, definitely a loss there, but I gotta. Vern said a lot of things I was gonna say. Lollipop was definitely like one of the favorite moments for me. There was a moment when they were camping and they were like, "Let's see if we can get anything on this thing," and they turned the radio on and like one of those songs came on. And it was just like a nice, beautiful little transition. So, I thought they did a wonderful job of like taking so many. I think that's what these truly timeless, like nostalgic movies do is take these soul classics from the era and find a way to incorporate them. You can. There's so many movies where the music is kind of like a fabric of the film in a lot of cool and important ways, and I thought they did a great job of taking topical tunes and weaving them in an interesting fashion here. So.
One of the things I really like is what Verno said, where he said, this is the movie that made a lot of these songs timeless for us, right? And it makes me think of like my favorite soundtrack, not talking about original composed scores, but my favorite soundtrack is Dazed and Confused, because that is music that encapsulates that moment in time, right? And I've always like really strived to do like a 2003 set movie that really does the same thing for music. And I already got my soundtrack figured out, but they're not as popular of songs. But anyway, I love, like, I would compare this soundtrack to something like Dazed and Confused.
Definitely.
Where it fits into, it captures a time. It captures a period. Dazed and Confused was made in the 90s. So all the kids that were graduating high school in 1974 were in their 30s at this point. This movie's made in the 80s. So it's kind of the same thing with kids from the 50s and the 60s, right? And every day things are getting closer. Nah. I mean, come on, Buddy Holly, man.
Right?
He died for you.
It has your song too, Robbie.
What's that?
It has your song, but not by Michael Jackson.
Which one?
Rockin' Robin.
Oh,
Tweedledee.
It does. The song that actually is the reason why I'm called Rockin' Robbie, because people used to make fun of me and call me Rockin' Robin because my real name is Robin. And I've owned it, just like Verno has owned Verno. Yeah. Daredevil has owned Daredevil.
I like that we're divulging all of our real names tonight.
Yeah.
Hey, what's up, Shane?
Hey,
how
Robin.
You doing?
My security number is 39. No, never mind.
Taki's real name, by the way, is Mervin.
Yeah,
Mervin the Martian.
I like how the camera went in close up when you said it.
What are you, Stu? Studemeister? What the fuck?
I'm just Stu. Yeah, dude. I got named Stuart. That's just the unfortunate truth about the situation.
I thought it was short for Stupac. It's not.
Stupac.
Although I do love that, bro. I'll take that all day.
You bet.
Ain't nothing but a gangsta party. All right. Let's talk about the theme of the movie. There's lots of themes in this movie. Obviously, it's a coming of age film, but what does it say to you? Verno, kick us off.
I plan to just say that, kind of keep it short and simple, but we've kind of already hit on it. Like the big thing I take away from it is like how real those friendships were, how real the conversations were. It was so fucking long ago that it didn't even, I don't know about you guys. I feel like Stu, you asked that comic writer, like, hey, what was the first movie you ever saw in the theater? I'm like, how the fuck would anybody know? What first? You know what I mean? How would you know? And he knew. And I feel like everybody knows. I feel like I remember my childhood like a little less than most people. But this like reminds me of that, is how deep and how like real it was when you're a kid. But the other thing is like we already kind of mentioned this a little bit. Just the expectations you have from your family and your community. I think it's like the common thing that's running through most of these characters. Like Teddy Duchamp, he's a loony because his father was a loony. I don't care if he stormed the beaches at Normandy. And Gordy, obviously, he's supposed to be a football player. I love the way he says no when they ask him, "Do you play football?"
Yeah,
at the grocery store. And he's like,
God,
"No."
did he lay it on thick or what? Well, you're fucking. And I loved shout out to John Cusack, the Golden Boy. Every time there's a flashback, that motherfucker was just doing some Golden Boy shit.
How old is he now? John Cusack? How were you that old in 1986? Like that.
Well, he's a teenager during 16 Candles, which is just right before this film a little bit, right?
Fair enough. But I guess that's the big thing I take away from it is like kids grow up, especially maybe in that era, but probably still now, and especially in a small town. You're judged by your family more so than if you're in a bigger town or whatever. But
hell yeah. My first movie in a movie theater was the first 20 minutes of Child's Play, and then the last hour and 40 minutes of Rattle and Hum after my biological father had to pull me out of the Child's Play theater and bring me into YouTube's Rattle and Hum. Because
do you guys like Stu? Do you guys remember the first movie you saw in the theater? I do not at all. I went to the theater a lot though when I was a kid. I feel like maybe that's the problem.
Yeah. I could probably figure it out through some research, but no, definitely it's not like a core memory like that.
Child's Play, and then the next
the first
year
rated
it was
R
Batman.
movie was Predator. I can tell you that.
All right. So for me, it was Child's Play, Batman, and Ghostbusters 2. Those are my first three.
Batman is a definite possibility because I was 7 years old then, so that's definitely.
I'm pretty sure I saw Batman in the theater. I know I saw Freddy's Dead, but I don't feel like it was my first one. I have no idea. I remember I saw it in 3D, baby.
I was old enough to see Batman by myself in the theater, and it was a two projector theater. In the one theater, it was Batman, and the other one, it was Do the Right Thing. And it's always been symbolic to me because that was probably the last time I would ever choose Batman over Do the Right Thing. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like for a long time, it was my last time, like going to being the kid stuff, so to speak,
for sure,
instead of like a urban contemporary movie. So,
hell yeah. What about you, Talkie? What's this movie speaking to you?
Well, you asked for it, Robbie. The 50s sucked, man. And anybody who says make America great again, they should watch this movie because the 50s sucked. And I don't think that. I think it gets glossed over, and I think people think it was Leave It to Beaver or something. And there was a lot of real problems that common everyday people had. And there was a lot of stuff that they had to get over. And the one thing that this film didn't really touch on, because it would have been just like bringing a female character into it, is what about when that big factory that Vern ended up working at? What about when that closed? Then what happens to that town? What happens to those people? So, I mean, to me, it was like an eye-opening thing because the 50s are like looked at as America's golden age, and it was bullshit. It was shit. The 90s were probably the golden age, if anything, and everybody knows the problems that we had in the 90s. So,
we had better porn in the 90s. I'll tell you that much.
Man, the 90s.
I think we're in the golden age of porn right now.
Yeah, like I'm pretty sure.
You don't even need an actress.
Talk about dramatic camera zooms, man. Like they happen right there.
You don't even need an actress anymore. You could just whatever you want. Like just AI. So
fuck, man. I think
that's a whole nother.
If you ain't careful, you're gonna find me out there, man. Y'all better watch out. What about you, Stu? What do you think this movie's saying to you?
Fuck. I gotta follow that up. All right.
Could you imagine getting on Pornhub or something and seeing my fucking ass up there?
Unfortunately, I am. Really, you forced me to imagine it, bro.
Like, what the fuck did they think I want this for? Like, well,
Damn,
you keep watching them on YouTube now. You want to see them naked? And like, no, man.
I didn't know Robbie had such flexible hips.
Bruh. I'm gonna get this movie. What does it say to me? It's all about I think nostalgia first and foremost. I think when you talk about this movie, when you know to a kid growing up in this time, and you mentioned this movie, it's an instant nostalgic throwback one way or the other. You feel warm and fuzzy without really knowing why. I think first and foremost, that's all. That's why I signed up for it. That's every time I see it, I just wanted to give myself an excuse to rewatch it, and I'm so glad I did. I think, ultimately it is, not to be too blunt or straightforward with it, but I think it is about the power of friendship and how it changes over the course of our lives, what it means at one point in our lives, how we go through the most intense, intensely real, formative experiences with people, and then really never see them again in a lot of cases. Whether it be growing apart, people move, whatever. Like you guys have all shouted out of, friends over the course of the night. I think that's how relatable it is.
I
So
could shout out
I think,
YouTubers.
right, right. There you go. But so, I think it's, at the end of it, that's why I love the end of it, because it really makes you reflect on, the power of friendship and what it means to what it meant to you then and what it means to you now. And why is it so different? And why is it feels so diluted and kind of like hard to hold on to in any sort of consistent way as an adult. So I think it's beautiful and how relatable it is on that level. And I think it just has so much great emotional moments, but also comedy within it too. So you always keep you coming back. So the power of friendship at the end of the day.
Hell yeah. You're all right, man. Whether it's the Care Bears ass shit, like at the power of friendship, we're all gonna do the Care Bear stare.
Got to, man. I
make
got
some shit
to
work together, right?
I
But
got
like
to.
whether it's that or whether
We
it's
need
like
these days, right?
Taki said this earlier, like the disappointment of adults. 2 kids.
Yes.
What Taki was saying about the 50s being sucky, but that's just also like, let's apply this to this. Whether it's the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s, 2020s, or any time before or any time after, parents don't understand. Like Will Smith said, the great poet, right?
Yep.
He said 2 things that really, I like pretty girls.
Great poet though.
And I'm just fairly trying to make a fucking joke about this new song, I Like Pretty Girls, which really sucks. But if you listen to I Like Pretty Girls at 1.25 times the speed, it's actually not that bad. All right. Shout outs to Steph for pointing that out to me. That being said, the disappointment of adults, and no matter what the fucking decade is, kids go through way more than we give them credit for. And how quickly we forget our own childhoods, right? And we get jaded and we get beaten down and we get to the point where like, it is what it is, just fucking face down, plow forward, get through it, right? You don't have that option when you're a kid, right? Because you don't have life to busy you. But what we do as adults is use life to, I think, avoid the trauma that was inflicted on us as kids, mostly from the disappointment of adults, right? And even the disappointment, here's the real kicker to me, the disappointment of ourselves as adults. Why am I not as close to my friends as I was when I was 12? Why can I not foster these kind of relationships? Why do I not have time like I did back then? We can all say, well, we're all adults now. I'm the world's worst. Sorry, I'm too busy. My own family, my sisters don't invite me to shit because they're like, well, we knew you'd be busy because, you're always busy. You always got to stream or you got to do this at work or you got to do this or whatever, right? That's a failure on us because lack of time is an illusion. We have all the time in the world for what we want to make time for.
Yeah.
The problem is we seek motivation. We seek outside influence to motivate us. And we don't, and we give in too much to distraction because that distraction distracts us from the trauma from when we were kids. Right. And I think that even though this movie's not necessarily trying to do that, it does it. And I think a very impactful and subtle way of a sort that it does in this film. Why are the bullies there? The bullies are there because that is this group of kids 5 years later. Look at the difference. Look at the difference between the 4 core kids, the core 4, the true core 4, right? Look at these core 4 kids and look at their bond. Look at their journey. Look at their love for one another. Do you feel like anybody in Ace's gangs loves one another, cares about each other. That all happens within 5 years, man. And that's the tragedy, is how quickly it happens. Wesley Crusher, fucking young Indiana Jones, the dude from Sliders, and and who's the other one?
Fucking Sliders. Corey
Fucking Corey
Feldman.
Feldman.
Sliders.
And
Fucking
Tommy Jarvis.
Sliders.
They are a core group.
Tommy Jarvis.
They are a core group of friends that truly love being around each other. And they're so authentic. But if you look at Kiefer Sutherland, Ace, and his gang, they're not authentic at all. They care more about being cool. They care more about, like, do you think they're friends because they actually care about each other? Or you think they're friends just because, oh, I'll be cool if I'm in Ace's gang? Right?
Yep.
And I think that's a big, kind of subtle thing in this movie, is the comparison between these two groups of friends. And the thing that really struck me was that there's like 4 to 5 years age difference between these characters. It happens that fucking quickly. That loss of innocence is a big theme in coming of age films. It really hits home here, especially because of the ending that's really haphazardly narrated by Richard Dreyfuss, in my opinion. All right, time to rate the film out of 5 possible you digs. You out there in the chat, what do you give Stand By Me? Verno, you picked it. You start us off.
If I could just add a little bit to that, the other thing I wanted to mention is enjoy your kids. Try to relive that through your kids, because that's what Richard Dreyfuss kind of realizes in that moment.
And be there for them.
Yeah. He's like, oh shit. And then he goes out there and he's running around and playing with him. He's trying to, like, siphon off some of that and relive it.
And the one thing, if you're an adult and you have kids, right? And I think everybody on this panel has kids but me. So as somebody without kids, I'll tell you from my experience, at least with this movie, is don't make what your kids are going through at any point in their, especially very formative years, insignificant, because you know how significant it was to you back then.
Hell yeah.
Right?
Just some things I want to point out. I love all the kid shit, like things that we forgot about that we did as a kid. Giving fucking skin, stuff like that. 2 for flinching. And my favorite was the walking next to your buddy and kicking him in the butt with your leg thing that they do. I love that. When was the last time you did that to someone? I'm gonna start doing it to everyone. I'll probably hurt myself or them.
It was literally 2 weeks ago though, when I went up behind somebody and I kicked him in the back of the knee to make him kind of like trip a little bit.
I did that to a stripper at the club on like my second day. I got along with this girl. I did it. She's sitting at the bar and she banged her fucking knee off the bar super bad, like went down, like what the fuck? I was playing around. But I also, just the quotes. That's the other thing we haven't mentioned. This is like one of the most quotable movies of all time. Expect, like, me and my buddy Geiger, like, we would constantly, he would always, Vern, you son of a whore, you was under the porch, wasn't you? 7 cents, Vern. 7 cents, Vern. A goocher. And then, no, I'm gonna dodge it. There's a million of them. By the way,
real quick.
Like the beaches in Normandy.
You tell me these kids couldn't buy some fucking hot dogs to put on a stick. They have to buy hamburger meat that they're like wrapping around a fucking stick to cook. Like, what the fuck is that? Like, hot dogs were like 50 cents for 8 back in 1986, man. What were they in the 50s? Jesus.
I love that shopkeeper too. Like, well, your brother sure was a hell of a quarterback. Here's your $1.50 worth of hamburger meat.
Right. He sure could play football.
Hope you feel like shit now. Here you go. Some shit for you.
And now as fucking 40 to 50-year-old men, we're all like, $1.50 for a pound of hamburger meat?
Right. I know.
The glory days.
The last quote I got to say, there's a bunch of them, but the last one, first of all, I guess a couple. Train. We do it all the time. We would always say that. We'd be on the train tracks and we'd be pretending. We'd be listening to it. We train, like certain train bridges, leeches. And the other one, suck my fat one, you cheap dime store hood. I love that so much. Suck my fat one, biggest one in 4 counties. I love that shit so much. It's a 5. Obviously, it's a 5. I picked it. It's a 5 for me all day. It really, as someone earlier said, like top 10 films of all time. It might be like my favorite film of all time. Just like how like much it like works for me. It's like a real bag of mushrooms. Like, there's no way it's gonna do that again, and it works every time. Like, I can't believe it really did the whole thing again, and it just hits it every time.
Hell yeah! Perfect score from Verno. What about you, Taki?
I have to say that I really enjoyed this discussion. a lot of times when you go on the internet, when they discuss this movie, they really focus on Gordy because he's the main character, and the Richard Dreyfuss aspect of looking in the past and him dealing with death. And, you know, Gordy not is dealing with his brother's death and the world making him feel that he was not good enough. And we didn't really discuss that here today, but we discussed a lot of the other important factors of this movie. And despite the fact, two things. First off, I'll start with the easiest one, the ghosts in the woods. We never got an explanation for that. I don't know what the fuck that was. They never really explained that. And number two, so
was
I'm
that wolves or what? Like what?
I don't know what the fuck it was. Maybe it
was
was
it
like the
wolves?
hose in the
Yeah.
hose in the trailer or something. I don't know what it was. I mean,
Wow.
the hose in
They
the
had that.
warehouse.
They had that one sound blast where they made it sound super fucking close.
Yeah,
It was really
I was waiting for somebody. I mean, I guess they just needed a reason to show off everybody standing with a gun, or I don't know.
Yeah.
That's one. It's small flaw. I'm a computer geek, so Richard Dreyfuss is Gordy in the future, and he's writing this book on his computer, mid 80s. If he's lucky, it's MS DOS. And his kids say, "Hey, Daddy, you didn't take us to the park yet." La 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 la. See how I treat kids now, anyway. So then Richard Dreyfuss gets up after he writes the last line to seal off the movie. Just gets up, turns off the computer, and walks away. Did he save his work?
That's hilarious.
Or did he just write this whole thing to kind of process the loss of Chris and the loss of, you know, everything? Like, wow, like this is life. So that's like the biggest takeaway I get from this movie. It's a 5 because everything was perfully executed except those two things I mentioned.
Well, how about this one too? The movie starts,
and it was a little light on the hose.
This movie starts with Richard Dreyfuss pulled over, reading about the death of his childhood friend in the paper. You tell me this motherfucker was just driving down the road and said, "You know what? Fuck it, I'm bored. Let me grab this paper out.
Right.
Go to goddamn page 18. Oh shit!" And just pulls over. Like,
Hilarious.
like that's a little okay. Whatever. Sure. Let's go with that. What perfect scores across the board so far? What about you, Stu?
I gotta go. Yeah, I gotta go 5 out of 5 as well, man. It's such a beautiful, evocative rewatch. You know what I mean? It's on the same page with Sandlot. It's something you know. So often you put on movies at this time and they kind of slouch one way or the other. You know, it just doesn't work. And I think this is one of those movies that really got that wave of childhood nostalgia, you know, down and kind of served as a blueprint for a lot of films after it. So I think you see echoes of all these characters in this, like, you know, quartet of friends, and so many other films that are considered classics as well when it comes to, you know, the childhood coming of age stories. So yeah, I think it's a beautiful thing, and you know, it's for cats like River Phoenix. It's really, you know, it really makes you think, man, what could have been? Because like the amount of talent on screen throughout the film, you know, from that kid is just is incredible. Like the way he carries a scene, and he brings such a legitimacy to you know, the film with his performance. It's really something to behold. So it you know, and also seeing Feldman right on the verge and hearing, like, didn't they fuck up the hotel rooms and run up all sorts of crazy bills? They were. So it's just a great snapshot in time, and it was, yeah, it's just a brilliant rewatch. You know, it's still giving me something new, but also especially with the ending of Dreyfuss, which I love, but also, you know, nostalgic in all the best ways. So 5 out of 5 for me.
All right. I don't.
What you got, bro? What you got?
I don't want to be this guy.
Be that guy.
I'm gonna break the love train just for a second.
It's all right.
And I'm gonna give this a 4.69.
Nice.
And the only reason why is because the movie, I'm engrossed in it, and then as soon as dipshit Richard Dreyfuss starts talking at the end, I'm just like, what the fuck is going on? The only actor that I think I detest more than Richard Dreyfuss might be Richard Gere. I don't know what I have about dicks in the Hollywood industry.
You got
but-
issues with dick, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I do, apparently. Still working that out. Anyway, I'll give it a 4.69, man. It's a really solid movie. I really like it. I think The Sandlot's a little bit better. But that's probably more because I grew up
Can't argue
with
that.
baseball being
Yeah.
a big part of my life and what really pulled me and my friends together, right? So, but Stand By Me is a classic for a reason, a 4.69. From me, a 5 from everybody else. That's a PCP average of 4.968, dudes, because there's a lack of hose in this movie.
Yeah.
Just
There
talking
you
said.
go.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
4.68 or 4.968, which means we had a bunch of perfect scores across Cruise Choice this year, including Akira, including Princess Mononoke. Hell, even the movie about the mime in love, Children of Paradise, got 5s across the board.
Did it
Conan
really?
the Barbarian got 5s across the board.
Damn.
The lowest rated movie of PCP Movie Night Cruise Choice 2025,
Ninja
The Adventures of
Sword.
Ford Fairlane. Go figure.
Ninja Sword.
Ninja Scroll?
Oh no, yeah, fuck.
It had a more solid rating.
Oh,
I
okay,
think,
yeah, all right, but
than
not
The
all
Adventures of Ford
five,
Fairlane.
which was solid.
Yeah, Brooks
picked
gave
it?
that one
Who-
like a 2, I think.
If-
He was not happy. He was
if
not
I
Who picked the Ford Fairlane?
Spilio.
Oh.
If I would have known Jelani wasn't going to show up for this, I would have gave Ninja Scroll a worse score. Let's just put that on the fucking record. I was being so nice.
Now, this has been a great Cruise Choice, though, man. We had a lot of great movies that we covered. So Cruise Choice is over. Action Fest begins. So join Fable over at One Collection Down tomorrow night for the beginning of Action Fest 2025. This is the first time. We are joined by another channel, the best Action Fest lineup I think we've had so far. And I said that last year. I'll say it again this year. So join Fable tomorrow night on One Collection Down for I Come in Peace. And the next week here for our opening of Action Fest 2025, The Raid Redemption and The Raid 2. I've never seen either of these movies. So I'm very, very excited. Look at that lineup. Kicking it off this week with I Come in Peace. We're ending it with the Terminator franchise.
Fuck yeah.
It's going to be
Let's
great.
go.
Verno, great
My brother.
pick. Thank you for being a part of the crew, bruh. Thank you, Stu. Thank you, Taki. Hell, maybe
Oh, yeah.
y'all will get Cruise Choice picks sometime in the future because I appreciate y'all being here for this show. It's one of my favorite things to do is just hang around, talk about movies with people,
Oh, yeah.
right? I think me and Verno and the crew were talking last night or yesterday afternoon after our Masters of Horror episode, and I was like, I'm a big cinephile. Even more so than like a comic book fan, and like hanging around with my homies and talking about movies is one of my favorite things to do. And at the same time, bro, we do have friendships like they have in Stand By Me, right here, right now. I've
Oh,
never
yeah.
seen any of these three people in person,
Isn't that crazy?
but I love you three. Like
Oh,
I
yeah.
love y'all. Like I love you, and I love this conversation.
Love you too.
Let's do this every fucking night. Fuck it. Let's all quit our jobs and just fucking do this shit full time. That'd be great.
You got
Dude,
You
that-
got insurance? Like,
that's what I was
absolutely.
thinking about is like the way that time, like it's weird when I think about how long we've known each other. Taki, where the fuck you go? But like Robbie, we've known each other for like 5 years now. But like these kids might have only known each other for a year, or you know what I mean? Like how quickly you can connect when you're a kid. And plus, we're not like states away and everything, so I think that helps a lot. But that's another thing. How quickly it can. 1 year worth of experience when you're a kid is worth a decade as an adult. It feels like.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. So Verno, thank you for picking this movie. What you got coming up, man?
Thank you for having me. We're doing this Thursday night. I Know What You Did Last Summer. Super stoked about that.
Oh,
Fun talking about nostalgic movies from my youth. This one, they got the new one coming out quickly. Go watch it right now if you guys want to watch it because it's on Netflix and it's leaving tonight. Today is the
Yeah,
last
what's
day
the
you
what's
can
the new
watch
one
it.
going to be called?
I Know What You Did Last Summer 2025, baby.
Yeah, that's not confusing.
Yeah, no,
I fucking hate that shit. I really
too.
hate that
I do
they do
too.
that shit.
I do too. Like when they did it with Scream 5, they called it Scream, and then they called the next one like, fuck it, Scream 6. We'll just skip 5. It didn't exist. But and then you got the other thumbnail? Boom. I'm so excited about this, man. I've been looking forward to doing this since I started the channel, The Road to Halloween, which is basically going to be like an evolution of the slasher series where we kind of like we're going to go through all the things that led to the first like hands down unarguable slasher, which is Halloween. So it's going to be running from from next month all the way into Horror Fest and starting with Psycho, man, in a couple weeks. Super excited about it. It's going to be a lot of these movies are deeper cuts, and a lot of them Stu and Link, who are going to be on most of those shows, hopefully all of them with me, haven't seen. So I think it's going to be very informative. And I loved this. Another channel, I said this last night, but another channel I saw or a podcast did a similar series, and it really like hooked me. And like it is the thing more than anything that got me interested in horror as deep as I am now, like studying the history of it. Like I love shit like this, the evolution of the tropes and everything that kind of led to what the slasher boom of the 80s. We'll go through all the stuff that led to it, all that we can in 6 weeks.
Hell yeah, appreciate that. What about you, Stu, man? What you got coming up, bro?
Yeah, man. This Wednesday, 9:30 p.m. Eastern, over on E's channel, 9-Panel Grid. We got our Heroes Con recap. I think Nick will be there, so check that out. Yeah, 9:30 p.m. Eastern.
Good
Hell
luck.
yeah. Right? I love the baby Claremont that he gave himself.
It's hilarious.
Yeah, and then Thursday night, of course, I will be there with Vern. Doing I Know What You Did Last Summer. Can't wait to revisit that classic. And then Friday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, I'll be there for the Blame Fable and His Amazing Friends. No, I'm sorry.
Friday.
All new, all different.
No,
Blame Fables.
11th.
Not this Friday. It's 4th of July, bro.
Okay, you're right.
You'll be by
11th.
yourself. Bro.
But many Fridays, that's where he'll be.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Yeah, the 11th, where we got our Bags, Board, and Badass Women series kicking off. So check us out there.
Hell yeah,
Yeah,
Talkie, man.
Thanks for having me.
Hell yeah, man. Talkie, it's great to have you on the show again.
Yes.
I know you got some picks for Horror Fest.
Yes.
The Horror Fest
Wow.
lineup will be announced very soon. By the way, the Horror Fest Mike's 2025 Horror Fest poll is active in the PCP Army right now. Go get your vote. Go get your vote in. Get your voice heard. All that shit. Talkie, I'm looking forward to more of these movie nights with you.
Hell
what
yeah,
you been
bro.
up to, man? Anything you got to plug or talk about?
I am also a panelist on Blame Fable, returning Friday, July 11th, with
God,
babes
so
and
much
comic
cleaner.
book boards, and it's going to be a great time. Some of the best ladies of YouTube will be joining us, so I can't wait.
Hell yeah.
To make up for the lack of hoes and Stand By Me. Thank you, Fable.
No,
Thank
these ain't
you.
no hoes, man. No.
All right.
Not all hoes.
Don't forget,
Anyone.
Action Fest starts tomorrow night on One Collection Down with I Come in Peace, and then continues next week here on PCP Movie Night with the Raid Redemption and the Raid 2. Very excited to check out these movies. Guys, we love you. We're going to be friends forever. And my final thoughts are just simply, fuck, I wish I had a good quote. from the movie.
Chopper, sick balls.
R.I.P. Jim Shooter.
Yeah, R.I.P. Jim Shooter. That's
Yeah.
that's a good one. What Verno, that's a good one. Let's end with that. Go ahead.
Chopper, sick balls.
See, that's one of those lines delivered by Richard Dreyfuss that I don't like.
I love it. I love it.
Where he said choppers.
Sandlot did it better. All right. We love you guys.
Peace.
Stand by us.